All right, everybody, welcome back to On the Ball, the video interview series from the Vanderbilt Sports and Society Initiative. Couldn't be happier than to have our guest today, Tyrone Robinson, who has become a good friend over the last several months as he has written the script for Nashville Children's Theater's world premiere production of Strong Inside, play on the life of Perry Wallace, someone who means so much to me, and Tyrone has taken such great care with this story. It's going to be a blockbuster, is what I'm telling everybody, Tyrone, as we record this a couple days before the premiere here in Nashville. But first of all, thank you for taking time to join us.
Hey, thank you so much, Andrew. I'm just honored to be here and honored to be collaborating with you on bringing the story to life to the stage.
Yeah, I can't wait till you come back to Nashville. We've had a chance to meet here a couple times now. Last time you were in town, you were willing to stand in the rain on the sideline of Vanderbilt football's win over Hawaii. So you brought us good luck that day, but I had a
Yeah,
lot of fun
man.
bringing you to that game.
That was a good time. It was.
So before we get into talking about this play specifically, I was wondering if you could just give folks a bit of background on yourself. I know you live in New York now, but you have some Southern roots, and where'd you grow up, and how did you become interested in the world of theater to begin with?
Sure. Well, I'm originally, like you said, I'm a North Carolina native, and grew up in Wilmington, North Carolina, on the coast. Hometown to Michael Jordan, little guy named Michael Jordan.
Right.
Not too far from Coach Stackhouse either, I believe. And also, I know Coach Del Harris
Right.
played Wake Forest, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
in Winston-Salem. So, I have some of those same ties. Got interested in theater as a kid. I was about 10 years old. My father took me to see a community theater show of The Wiz, and I saw like all this amazing, brilliant music and brilliant acting and singing and all that. And I just, how do I get to be up there? So I started out as an actor and have performed on Broadway, performed on Broadway tours. Actually, came through Nashville more than once. I came through Nashville on the Lion King tour, and also on the Book of Mormon tour. So I've been through Nashville a few times as an actor. Done television, network television. Had a recurring role on doctor show, New Amsterdam.
Uh-huh.
And so I've done the whole acting thing, and I loved it. And during the pandemic, obviously there was no theater going on. TV and film weren't really going on hardcore, and so I had a lot of time to go back to one of my other loves, which is writing. And so I started getting writing commissions through theaters that were, looking for writers to develop new work. And one of those theaters was Nashville Children's Theater, and had a relationship with Ernie Nolan, the artistic director there. And so Ernie said, "Hey, check out this book. I think it's amazing. I think it would make a great stage play." And so I read your book
Mhm.
long before I knew who you were.
Right.
Knew you directly, and just was blown away. And so that was the connection, and what brought me to Strong Inside.
Wow. All right. Well, I want to go backwards a little bit. So you're 10 years old and you see The Wiz and you're kind of blown away by that performance. I'm the son of a almost or just 10-year-old son. He just turned 10. And
Yeah.
he's really interested in baseball right now. So I kind of know the things you do if you're a father of a kid who's interested in baseball. So how do you go from a kid in Wilmington, North Carolina who's interested in a play to actually making that your career? What were the steps along the way?
Man, that's a good question. I had to be really methodical about it just because, where I grew up in Wilmington is kind of a long way away from even New York, geographically, but also just, metaphorically and literally.
Mhm.
I think so. I went to school and studied computer science, which has almost zero to do with theater and Broadway, but it was the safe thing to do. When I went to college, it was the early aughts, and we survived Y2K, so it was like computers will be the next thing.
Uh-huh.
And so I actually have a BS degree in computer science from North Carolina A&T State University, which I'm so proud of. Love going there. But
Mhm.
while I was there, I was taking acting classes. I knew it was a passion. So even though I was studying, my main thing was computer science, and that was hard work. I feel like I could have gotten a minor probably in theater and dance with all the extracurriculars that I did. I was just doing anything that I could do. At one point, the theater department like had to kind of shoo me away. They're like, "Get out of here! Like, go be an usher!" Like, because I was just so passionate about it, but I wasn't a major.
Right.
So they're like, "We can't do anything for you." I just continued to stick with it, continued to train while I was in college, And then as soon as I finished college, man, I booked it to New York. And my first job actually was on Wall Street. I was a computer programmer for Goldman Sachs.
Oh, well.
And yeah, it was great. I mean, I, met so many interesting people, but on my lunch breaks, I'd be sneaking out and going to auditions, you know? So eventually I booked a job. I booked an acting job. I was still getting my work done at Goldman, but I booked an acting job and got an agent from that. And that was kind of it, put in my notice. I kind of, I'm one of the first people that left my class at Goldman Sachs. You come in as a cohort,
Okay.
and I'm still friends with some of those guys. And it's just, the people have told me recently, like, man, I remember when you left, like, I can't believe you left Goldman, but I had to pursue my passion.
Yeah. Well, you hear about like someone as a waiter or something. You working at
Yeah,
Goldman Sachs. It's quite a
man, my
transition.
parents, you can't even imagine. My mom was a school teacher. She's a retired school teacher, like 38 years or something like that. My father worked in a chemical plant. So they're both retired now. But man, when I left Goldman, they couldn't, almost six figures in stock options, and you're walking away from that for the lucrative acting career. Like, come on. So they had to have faith with me. They had a lot of faith with me. And then it was about 2 years of just being in the business that I ended up getting the Lion King national tour. And
Yeah.
that was my first like big break.
Okay.
And that was Broadway national tour. And so my parents saw that you could make an actual living, and I was back now to the Goldman pay level.
Right.
So it
Okay.
worked out. Thankfully, I'm so thankful and so so blessed.
Well, my wife and I have gone to TPAC shows for
Yeah,
years. I'm sure we saw you in Lion King and
probably.
Book of Mormon. Just real quick before we talk more about Strong Inside, like what's that life like for an actor who's in one of those touring shows? Is the same cast going from city to city? Like, do you have time during the day to explore the cities you're in? Do you enjoy doing the same show night after night? Like, just what's that whole world? What's that like?
Yeah, I bet you if you talk to 10 different people, you'll get 10 different answers. But my experience was great. I was on The Lion King for 2 years, and I was on the Book of Mormon for almost 5 years
Wow.
on the road. And then I came back to New York, got a Broadway show, and stayed in New York. But yeah, the life of tour can be amazing. It can also be hard, as you can imagine, being like a traveling, almost like a traveling business person, a traveling
Okay.
salesperson, sort of that sort of life of living outside of a suitcase. But I had a great cast. The Lion King was an incredible group of people. I mean, I'm still in touch with some of those people, still close with some of them. And that was, over, I don't know, 18, 17 years ago. It was a long time ago. It was when I had a six pack, is what I joke.
All right.
And then with the Book of Mormon, like I'm still really good friends with a lot of those people that I was on tour with, just because we were so close. So you're intimate, you're close, you live with each other, you work together every day, you hang out together outside of the show, and then you do get a lot of time, to explore cities that you go to, because you're essentially working for like 3 hours a day. You're working that concentrated showtime period of the day, and then we have rehearsals occasionally, but more or less you're free all day.
Okay. All right. Well, getting to Strong Inside, I believe you had a prior friendship with Ernie Nolan, who's the artistic director at Nashville Children's Theater. So how does that work? Like, how does he decide, who he wants to approach to adapt a book from your perspective as a playwright? How do you evaluate whether a certain idea is a project that you'd actually like to work on?
Yeah, Ernie and I had been talking about working together for over a couple of years, over 2 or 3 years. I had introduced some of my work to him as a writer, some of my writing work, and it's all historically based. A lot of the work that I've done, and so I think the combination of the history and my love of history, and the combination of the work that he'd already seen of mine, probably brought me to mind for him whenever he considered the book as a stage adaptation. So I think that was sort of the first natural connection was, oh, there's this guy who I know writes these historical shows. And so I'd worked on a show which is actually now at the Kennedy Center, was at the Kennedy Center in 2022, called Showway, adaptation of a Jacqueline Woodson book. And
Mm-hmm.
I shared that work with Ernie. So he knew about my adaptation work. And so I think the first thing I had to do was read the book and figure out, is there a through line there that has tension, that has conflict, that has something that we can look at, that we can watch, that will hold the audience's attention for 70 minutes. And obviously there was. I mean, Perry's life is just so incredibly interesting, and what he did as just so heroic. And so finding that was what tied me in. I mean, that was my way in. And then also being a Southerner, being a Black man, being someone who grew up being athletic. I wasn't an athlete, at the level that Perry was, but I grew up, playing athletics and playing sports and loving sports. So that combination all kind of tied me into it.
And when you're, I mean, as a playwright, you write original stories yourself, I'm sure, and then there's the process of adapting a story from a book. What are the pros and cons of that experience, and how you tell a story for the stage in your own voice based on material that's been written by somebody else?
That's a really good question. I think so much of the process for both is so similar. Obviously, with an adaptation, you know what the ending is.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of for Strowman's side, it was just a matter of figuring out what particular part of Perry's story did we want to tell, particularly for the audience at Nashville Children's Theater. How far did we want to go in the story to make sure that audiences felt they could really connect with him and relate to him. So what part of his humanity can we show that can really make an audience say, see themselves in him, in his heroic role that he played in history. So I think that was a big part of adapting Strong Inside, but also, writing a new show, you're trying to find out like, where are all those dramatic beats? What is the story that you're telling? What's the arc of it? How can you find the different, the different things that the different setbacks that make an audience kind of continue to root for the lead character, the protagonist. With an adaptation, those things are already there. We have all the roadblocks, and your book so brilliantly lays out all the roadblocks that Perry encountered. So just identifying those things was, I think, the biggest challenge or the biggest difference. I think with an original work also, I think it takes a lot more time to workshop and figure out a new work, because an original work, because you don't have those sort of roadmap in place. So I love adapting. Mm-hmm. I love doing adaptations because it's all there. It's just a matter of figuring out what's going to be the magic sort of equation to make up the final analysis and the final show.
Okay. You mentioned the workshopping, and one of the workshops was my first experience, hearing the actors read your lines. And what can you talk about that collaborative process with the actors, with the co-directors, the people building the set? And I know there's going to be so many cool aspects to the set using video and photography, and the process of making this all come together beyond even what you had originally written on the page.
Sure. Man, the workshop is where it all comes together for me. I know some people can write, isolated by themselves in a room, and they come out and like they hand you a script and it's all done and nothing changes. I guess that happens. But in my case, hearing actors read it out loud, we have three incredible actors. I mean, three of Nashville's busiest, I say Nashville's busiest actors, because they're all working on multiple projects at the same time. We've got three incredible actors who Nashville Children's Theater has worked with before. Actually, one of them is a recent Vandy grad. So, I'm so proud of that. And so being in a room with those guys, with the actors, and then also with our amazing director, Ernie Nolan and Tamiko Robinson Steele are co-directing. And so being in the room with all of them really was where it all started to synthesize and come together. Because you hear what doesn't work, you hear what does work, you hear what works, and you can keep going in that direction, go even farther. What doesn't work, you just get rid of and move on, be ready to try something new. So that was really like pivotal and important. And I think that's where the script really started to come together for me. And then when we did that reading, I don't know, what month was that? That was like 3 months ago, right?
Yeah, it was maybe 2 months. Yeah, man. 3 now that we're into September. Yeah.
So when we did that workshop, I mean, we're all like on pins and needles because, now we have an audience who doesn't know and love us.
Right.
We've all been in the room together, like the actors, the directors, myself. We've all been in the room together, like love fest, just huddled around this show and trying to work it out. And now we've got an invited audience, and so it's just a matter of whether how they're going to receive it. And I think they loved it. I mean, the audience reception was really, really fantastic after that workshop, which was exciting. So that's like the last part of really telling us what works, what doesn't, figuring out how to keep going in whatever direction works.
Can you tell our audience a little bit about just Nashville Children's Theater? It's funny when I talk about this play, some people maybe who aren't parents and aren't familiar with the theater think that it's going to be kids acting, like
Oh,
9 or 10-year-old kids. And I know these are professional actors. They perform for kids,
right.
But this play, I think, will appeal equally to adults and to young people. But I mean, you've worked with a lot of theaters around the country. What type of reputation does Nashville Children's Theater have, in your world, and what's been your experience with the people you've worked with there?
Nashville is it's the oldest children's theater I think in America, and the reputation is unmatched. I mean, it's one of the top children's theaters in America, which that's no small feat. That's not just hyperbole.
Mm.
So I know that I knew coming in that we were in good hands. The set designer, the lighting designer, sound, all the design team, just consummate professionals. Some of the top in their field, and so that was sort of another thing that brought me in. I was like, I'm down. Like to play with all these amazing professionals in the industry. But also we have 3 adult actors. They're all, I think, in their like, mid 20s up to, I would say mid 30s, maybe even early 40s. So they're all adults. And like you said, they do perform for young people, but there are no children in the play. And I wrote the show specifically for a family audience. So it's written for mom, dad to be able to bring the kids, guardian to be able to bring the young people. It's not written to preschoolers or anything like that.
Right, right.
We deal with Perry's story, the way that you beautifully wrote it in the book.
One of the things I thought was especially interesting and effective in the way you tell the story is to tell Perry's story within the context of real events that were happening in the world in terms of the civil rights movement, whether it was sit-ins or speeches, protests, that sort of thing. And just like in the book, I think that sports and history work really well together. I mean, there's some kids that are interested in the sports, and this will bring them to the theater, and they'll learn more about their city or their country than they knew before. There's other kids that are already big fans of coming to Nashville Children's Theater that might see that, like sports is a worthy platform to tell these stories. Was that an appealing side to the story for you? And like, what were the challenges of telling a story of one person who happens to be an athlete, or challenges or opportunities, within that context of real history?
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I always look at challenges as opportunities. I also direct, so it's like, something comes on along. It's like we had to change course and we got to do something different. It's like, okay, how can we invest in that and do
All
that?
right.
So yeah, it was all opportunities. I think part of the challenge of finding the constant tension and conflict for Perry was he was such a virtuous person. And in reading your book and in all the research I did, you can't find somebody who had a bad word to say about him. I mean,
No.
in all the research I did. So, obviously, we come to the theater to see complicated people. We can come to the theater to see conflict. That's kind of the thing that we love to see in theater and on stage. So that was a thing that I had to really tune into, was how do we create conflict for someone who, lived such a virtuous life. I mean, he was just a good person and he did the right thing throughout his life. So pitting his life and his amazing trajectory in sports to the point where he did what he did in the SEC against actual history became the through line for that, and became a main device for how we could frame the conflict that he witnessed and encountered throughout his life and overcame throughout his life, but how that actually framed what he was up against and how he had to struggle through and persevere over all of that adversity to integrate the SEC.
Yeah. So I know when I have a new book come out and that box arrives in the mail, and I can open it up and pull the book out. It's like holding one of my kids for the first time. What is an opening night like for you? I mean, I know you're going to be coming down to Nashville for the premiere. Do you like to show up early and like soak in the whole experience? You want to get there right before the curtain opens? What are you looking for during the performance? We have your eyes and ears on the audience as much as the stage. What's that experience like for you?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything, and it'll be exciting. It'll be anxiety provoking. It'll be I think it's an opportunity for more learning. As a playwright, and like I'm sure as a novelist, you have a book come out. You're paying attention to what people are saying about it. What is the reception? So there'll be that happening, I think, because it's just an opportunity to continue to learn and see what connects with people. I think that play is definitely going to connect with them, and so figuring out like how that all works with the audience, with a live audience, would be a whole new experience.
Mm-hmm. Last
I'm
question
excited.
I want to ask you. It's been great having you visit Nashville, including coming over to Vanderbilt, to the athletic department. I know you've met a lot of people here, been around campus, met Coach Lee in the football. You've met many members of the basketball staff. And I don't know, like, what's been your experience dealing with the Vanderbilt side of all of this present day, and how have you perceived the way that Perry Wallace is regarded, today by people in this community here at Vanderbilt?
Wow. Well, first, thank you for bringing that up because I wanted to say thank you to Coach Lee, Coach Harris, Coach Stackhouse, who I will meet when I come back the next time.
That's right.
Just the incredible support that I've felt, and that I think the theater has felt from not only the campus and the community itself, the university itself, but also the incredible support of the athletic department. I'm just so grateful, and I think that the theater just thanks them for their generosity and just their support, and all of the generous donors who have supported the show, because it allows us to do all the things that we do to bring the story to life. So I just wanted to say that. I think that you can get a good sense when you are in Memorial Gymnasium, that Perry's legacy is there. It's alive and it's well. I mean, not only that, but before you even walk to the gymnasium, on Perry Wallace Way, you get a sense that like this man left an incredible, indelible legacy, and it's still being remembered, it's still being honored, and it's still being upheld as an example for all of us to follow. And I think that it's incredible, and I'm honored just to be a small part of it because I know that it's something that will go on beyond all of us.
You're a big part of it, and I'm, I think it's especially important that something like a play exists, because it's one thing to honor Perry in symbolic ways, with a street name or his jersey retired, but he is such an important figure to this school and to this city, and beyond those things too, that it needs to be a living legacy. And I think that this production is the best example yet of the living legacy and how it's going to impact people, influence people, entertain people, cause people to stop and think. I think in today's climate where books and curriculum that deal honestly with issues that are addressed in this play, like racism, you see so many people trying to ban those things. And I'm proud of Nashville Children's Theater and Vanderbilt and this community supporting play like this right now. It's just all the combination of all the best things, and so I can't wait for Thursday night. People don't have their tickets yet. They need to get them. There's 20 plus performances, 2 matinees every day, every Tuesday through Friday for school groups that will be making field trips to see the play, and then public performances on the weekends. People who are watching who are affiliated with Vanderbilt in any way or who are alumni of Pearl High School can attend performances. There's 3 different performances where you can get half off your tickets by using the code V150, which refers to this being the 150th anniversary of Vanderbilt. So V150, 2 performances on the 9th, 23rd, and 24th of September. So I hope people will take advantage of that. Tyrone, can't wait to see you here in a couple days. It'll be a great night. Thank you for what you have done to honor Perry Wallace's story. His family will be here on the first Saturday performance on the 9th. I know that they've got 40 plus members of his family coming, including his wife and daughter. They are so excited about this, as is Nashville. So thank you for what you have contributed to this city.
Hey, thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to continue to see how it grows. It's going to be
All
exciting.
right. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.